I could. Things at that time were not quite what they are today. You know.
Mm-hmm.
The 13 and 14-year-old scoring heavily today, and kids think nothing of it.
Mm-hmm. So was there ever a moment of shock, like, oh my God, I've joined the Marine Corps, what have I done? Or were you pretty well prepared? I guess you knew probably a lot of people that had been through it.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe standing at the graveyard where there's a couple of thousand fresh corpses just buried, you know. They dedicated the graveyard there on Iwo Jima. Listen to the taps,
Mm-hmm.
seeing the area where we were bivouacked was right alongside of a road. Went the length of the island, and one jeep after another used as ambulance would come by with 3 or 4 severely wounded people on it. One right after the other all day long.
All Marines?
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm sure there was an occasional Navy man or Army man, but not many.
So you got through boot camp, and I guess that's when you ended up, did you come out of boot camp as a tank engineer? Or tank mechanic?
No, I was assigned to the tank training farm, Jack's Farm they called it. Go there and learn how to drive and work on tanks.
Where was that?
There was a place called Jack's Farm outside of San Diego, California.
Okay. Is that where you did boot camp?
We did boot camp in San Diego.
In San Diego?
Marine Corps. Recruit Depot, Marine Corps Base, San Diego, California.
So what was the farthest you had ever been from Chicago before you jumped on that train?
Hawks Lake, probably.
Hawks Lake, Illinois. So you go from probably your first trip outside of Illinois, except for maybe Wisconsin or something,
Yeah,
all the way to San Diego in the boot camp.
yeah,
You get there and they shave your head,
right,
start yelling at you.
right. They start yelling at you first.
Wow. Uh, and then you came out and you went to Jack's Farm, learned about tanks, huh?
Right, and I wound up being sent from there to Fort Knox, Kentucky to go to school. I was there for 10 weeks. And studied tank mechanics there.
So you learned a lot about tanks.
I guess I did.
Were tank designs changing a lot then? Were you just coming out with new designs month to month?
They were getting into the medium tanks at that time. At Jack's Farm we had a lot of light tanks, or small, half the size of the medium tank, and really antiquated things. But at Fort Knox we studied the heavier tanks, and then when we came back to California and were assigned to the 5th Tank Battalion, they had the medium tanks. Medium tanks were about 34 tons, and the light tanks were like 12 or 13 tons.
What was the top speed on these guys?
35,
Oh really, they went that fast?
maybe, somewhere around there, maybe 40.
So you were in the 5th Tank Battalion,
5th Marine Division.
5th Marine Division, 5th Tank Battalion. And where did you go from there, from Kentucky?
Kentucky, went to Camp Pendleton, Aliso Canyon, which is part of the, being in the tank battalion. They wanted us off, away from everything else, because we were sort of dirty and dusty. Training would tear up the earth and make clouds of dust everywhere. You could go for a ride in the tank and come back with dust an inch and a half thick on your shoulders and helmet.
Wow. You must have really been impressed when you first saw a tank. I mean, thinking about that steam engine being a big animal,
Yeah.
that tank is really just a big,
Yeah,
nasty predator.
big elephant, yeah.
Wow. So what kind of shells did they have in it?
75 millimeter,
How big is that?
75
I
millimeters.
mean, let's see, 75. Well, that's the
Three
diameter,
inches.
right?
Yeah, that's the diameter of the shell,
How long is it?
probably
So it's a long
2
thin
feet
shell,
24. Yeah.
and it's got a machine gun on it.
You know how some bullets are tapered?
Mm-hmm.
That's a projectile, they were that way.
Mm-hmm.
And we wound up with a lot of flamethrower tanks.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had one in each company, at least one in each company. And they were very popular. Everybody was always calling for the hot carts.
Hot carts?
Hot carts, yeah. The Japanese were 20,000 people underground there, and they'd only come up to shoot you now and then. You had to dig every one of them out. And the flame tanks were good for that.
So you went into the 5th Battalion. You said you went to Camp Pendleton. Where was that?
It's just north of San Diego, about 35, 40 miles,
Okay.
at Oceanside, California.
So when did you finally, so what happened then? You stayed there working on tanks?
Working, training, and then wound up. We were scheduled to leave to go to Hawaii, but we didn't know where the hell we were going. And the day before my birthday, we were scheduled to leave the next morning. It was the day before my 21st birthday. And nobody wanted to give me a drink because I wasn't 21 years old. I was 20 years old in 364 days.
Mm-hmm.
And that was pissing me off. So
Wow.
finally got somebody to give me a drink, and my buddy was with me, and he wanted to just get right back. Camp was 9 or 10, 9:30 at night, something like that. So I ordered one for me and one for him, doubles. You know.
Mm-hmm.
We threw them down, and he's wanting to get going. One more, so we had another double, and pretty soon he didn't give a shit whether we left or not. We had about 10 in a row, and I can remember I was conscious of drinking everything until I stood up, and then I was in a blackout.
Wow.
We wound up going back to bathe with some waves, women Navy,
Mm-hmm.
and I vaguely remember seeing them, but we went back to the base with them and visited with them for a while, and then went home, but it was all, could have been any kind of a party going on, I wouldn't have remembered.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So I guess you were in the service at that point almost a year.
Yeah,
Right.
a little over a year.
Still in California. And you turned 21 and then you shipped out, I guess?
Right.
And where'd you head?
Hilo, Hawaii.
Hilo, Hawaii.
Hilo, Hawaii is where we disembarked, and then we went to Camp Tarawa on the big island of Hawaii. It was part of what had been the Parker Ranch, the second biggest cattle ranch in the world. It was a kind of a desert area. Beautiful temperature, 75 or 78 every day. Cool at night and dry. The other side of the island got all the rain. all around, right in that area.
So what's it like? You're serving, you're getting trained, you're getting ready to deploy. You know, sooner or later you're going to go see some action, but you never know until the last minute, right?
Right.
So you're just kind of waiting it out.
Mhm. They were shipping, I didn't know I was gonna go till last minute. They shipped the outfit out and they were leaving guys behind. And all of a sudden they told me to take my, I was driving a gasoline truck at that time. Take it down and load it, get out of town. And they loaded my truck on the ship. There was 260 pieces of equipment. Mine, I think, was marked number 1. Either was number 1 or number 260. And I thought it was, when it said number 1, it was the first one off.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first one on. So I had 259 pieces of equipment loaded after that they had to take off the ship before they got to my truck. So it was, when we got to Iwo Jima, it was 10 days before I got ashore. And drove the gasoline truck ashore with never put a drop of gas inside of it. Wound up putting a boom on the front of the truck, on the bumpers, with cable on it to wound up lifting other cans of gas on the different trucks, 6x6s, and using it for various things like that. Running errands with it, using it for a taxi cab.
So that was after Iwo Jima was taken,
Right during the battle.
during the battle.
Yeah, that they were fighting there for something like, people were dying for about 35 or 40 days.
And you were on the island? So let me make the jump here. You went from, you shipped out from California, you went to
Right.
Hawaii
Right.
in the desert area. And then you were driving a gas truck in that area?
Yeah.
And then they loaded you up and you were shipping out to Iwo Jima, and it was the first time you were really headed towards conflict.
Right.
And you got to a part of the island which had been taken.
Well, on the way to Iwo Jima, we stopped at Saipan for whatever reason, I don't know, but could see the B-29s flying from there, from Saipan and Tinian, flying overhead, going to Japan, bombing. We were parked in offshore there, and we were on a LST, a landing ship tank. They have the big gates on the front.
Mm-hmm.
You drive a tank on and off of it. And a bunch of us were swimming off that ramp, and one guy jumped in and he started swimming out, and the tide turned. The minute it turned, he couldn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
He was out 50 feet or 75 feet. And it seemed like he was swimming there forever before they finally got a line out to him. But if he hadn't panicked, he'd have drowned right there. He's a real cool dude.
Did you get stung by a jellyfish at all?
Yeah,
A big one?
I guess they may be as big as your fist.
Mm-hmm.
Portuguese man-o-war, they called it. Put a big red label on my chest. Fortunately, I only got hit by one, like a bee sting.
Mm-hmm.
So if you got hit by a couple of them, you'd be in bad shape.
So you shipped out on your gas truck to, you said you stopped somewhere, and then
Saipan.
and then you were headed for Iwo Jima,
Right,
and that's where the fighting was.
right. We got there